Hi, welcome. My name is Ann English, and I use she, her pronouns. And I'm taping this welcome from the unceded ancestral lands of the Tongva, Gabrielino, and Chumash peoples. Thank you so much for choosing to join us this afternoon and hear some of the most important voices in Los Angeles. The CSH Speak Up program, in its ninth year now, continues to support our community members with lived expertise to share their experiences and insights with us. This is our 12th cohort, and we are so encouraged that the value and inclusion of lived expertise has grown exponentially over the past few years across our community and many others. We still have a lot of work to do to fully realize the promise of true partnership with and leadership by those with lived expertise, but decades of being in community with them continues to assure us that this is the path to ending homelessness. Speak Up is only possible because of numerous supporters, partners, and volunteers. I want to give a shout out to the volunteer coaches from this cohort, all but one of whom are brand new this year. Kirsten Farrell, Peter Kenny, Eric Mark, Rebecca Chang, and Nicholas Daly Clark. Thank you so much for sharing your time and space and attention and giving so much support to the advocates you partnered with. The Speak Up program is about building community between those with and without lived experiences of houselessness. Relationships and proximity are the key to understanding the whole story of who we are as individuals, as a community, and who we choose to become. As Los Angeles grapples with some of the most distressing policy considerations in a decade, we hope you will hear this call to reject the convenient stereotypes which rob us of true insight and carry with you the humanity that you find here. Now I'd like to introduce our friend and colleague, Dove Presnall, a narrative therapist who has worked with the project since its inception. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Dove Presnall, and I'm the clinical consultant for the CSH Speak Up program. In 2012, I started working with CSH to develop a curriculum that would help supportive housing tenants share their stories for advocacy. 10 years later, and nearly 9 years after the first cohort began, I'm in awe of the impact that the CSH Speak Up advocates have had on our communities and on the entire homelessness sector. When we began, story had started to be recognized as a key driver of social change. Stories connect and motivate people in ways that other kinds of information and data just can't. As social service and change organizations rushed to incorporate more storytelling into their fundraising and advocacy work, few stopped to really consider how the ways they were telling stories impacted the very people they were setting out to help. Stories told about charitable work have tended to center the expertise and assistance of the helpers, pushing aside the intelligence, courage, tenacity, and relationships that have sustained people through their difficult times in favor of elevating the organization. Deficit-centered accounts also reinforce negative societal stereotypes about who needs help and why, and also about whose knowledge matters. Stories shared by someone other than the person themselves often exaggerate these effects. At the same time, sharing one's own experience can be re-traumatizing, and too few organizations were paying attention to this or offering enough support to the people who stepped forward to share their stories for advocacy. From the beginning, the program that came to be called Speak Up was designed to challenge these problematic aspects of storytelling for social change, and it has become a model for doing so. It has been replicated in other places across the country and has driven changes in how people with lived experience of homelessness are treated when doing this work. Speak Up advocates push us all to center people with lived expertise as essential partners in ending homelessness, whose work and knowledge are valuable and valued, and whose whole personhood is respected. Each time an advocate shares their story, they create connections between those who have experienced homelessness and those who have not, enrich our understanding of the barriers to reliable, safe housing, point the way to possible solutions, and ultimately change the story of homelessness. So today, I congratulate the advocates who have completed this time of preparation. I am so honored to have been able to share some of this journey with you and cannot wait to see what you do as we move forward together to end homelessness.
Hi, my name is Peter Kenny. I am a CSH Speak Up coach, and I've had the privilege of working with this gentleman, Melvin Rico DeRixie, for the past year and a half, or about that time. I've got to say real quick that the one thing I've learned many things from this man, is humility. And I've learned that it's earned, it's shaped. You just don't come out with humility. Life teaches you that, and that's what I've learned from this gentleman and friend through our time together, sharing stories, being privileged enough to listen to your story. I feel sometimes the roles were reversed. That someone says, "Oh, you're Melvin's coach." I listened, but Melvin's the real coach. He has shared he has a lot of wisdom. He's been through a lot. He's definitely, as you will hear in a moment, through his story, changed my perception of homelessness. And I really hope it changes yours. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Melvin so he can share his wonderful story with you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can I ask you this one question? What does homelessness look like to you? While you ponder that question, I have a story to share that may change the way you view homelessness. The story begins in New York with a young man, a son of Dominican parents from the Dominican Republic. His love of going to the movies intrigued him to the point where he wanted to become an actor and radio DJ. Besides his parents, family, teachers, and other mentors, he was encouraged to pursue whatever dreams he had, despite his shyness and a slight accent. After some years of participating in school plays in both elementary and high school, this young man was able to hone his skills in the creative arts. This afforded him the opportunity to become a TV producer of a television teenage show while in high school, which prepared him for college, where he majored in broadcast media. While pursuing his dream of becoming an on-air personality or radio DJ, he was able to secure on-air positions from East Coast to West Coast. He would later marry and father of 4 beautiful children. He went on to serve in the U.S. Army, utilizing his civilian broadcast media skills in the military as a broadcast NCO officer supervisor. By 1998, he had served a total of 23 years in the U.S. Army. But unfortunately, he and his wife divorced. Around this time, during the 1980s, he had moved to Los Angeles to keep his dream alive and was able to pursue both acting and radio positions. In addition, he held various jobs as bus driver, teacher, journalist, and counselor. This was all to challenge him and to keep him afloat while he was navigating the sometimes turbulent waters of Hollywood. Through all this, he kept a humble confidence in good times and bad times. He would later remarry and continue to upgrade his educational objectives while working many jobs and motivating others along their path of dreams. Around 2017-18, he and his wife ended up financially struggling. She was a teacher out of work, and he was not able to find a job that would pay enough to provide basic rent and simple living expenses. Now, factors that contributed to him not finding secured employment included being overly qualified, racial rejection, and age discrimination, all of which became a reality to him. He and his wife ended up having to share housing with friends, and eventually they became homeless. Now, After some time, through perseverance and commitment and faith, they were strengthened, and he was able to find assistance through the VA and PATH programs. He later was able to secure permanent housing and some employment. Now, I know this well because the man in this story is me. I bet you think, like most people, that the leading cause of homelessness are a criminal record, drugs and alcohol addiction, and mental illness. But that would be incorrect. The top 3 causes of homelessness are a lack of affordable housing, unemployment, and poverty, which constitutes a real lack of needed services. Now, my life path of having experienced homelessness has led me to become an advocate for changing the perception of what homelessness looks like. My hope is that our legislatures will not just view the homeless epidemic in this country from only one point of view. Not from the surface, but from the root. Because the root is always the main cause of life impact. I am Melvin Rico Dirixie, and this is my story.
Hi, my name is Eric Mark, and I'm a CSH Speak Up coach. And over the last 9 months, I've had the absolute privilege of working with my friend and colleague, Ina Fenderson, as we work to craft, develop, and tell her incredible story of strength, perseverance, and accomplishment. I have learned so much from Ina through this process, and we've become so close as we really struggled to become better friends, better people, and better neighbors to everyone around us. Please will join me in welcoming Ina Fenderson, CSH Advocate.
My life was turned upside down by the sudden, unexpected death of my grandmother, with whom I had been living. Grandma Zora and Grandpa Wesley had raised me and filled my childhood with happiness. But Granny had been sick for some time with diabetes and a weak heart, which I knew firsthand because I had been her caretaker for the past 5 years. One evening, she said goodnight in her sweet, soothing voice and retired to her bedroom. I did not realize that that was the last time I would see her alive. After she died, I had no idea what lay ahead, nor did I recognize that my life would never be the same. On top of losing my beloved grandmother, I was about to become a grandparent myself for the first time, as my 17-year-old daughter was expecting a child. At the very moment that I should have been celebrating the impending birth of my grandchild, I should have been filled with excitement, anticipation, and wondering whether our soon-to-be delivered bundle of joy would be a boy or a girl. My mind was focused on where I was going to spend the night and getting something to eat, because the loss of my grandmother brought my stable and fulfilling life to a screeching halt. Here I am, unhoused and uncertain of how to receive help. Where do I even go for assistance or advice? In my naive mind, until that moment, far removed from the needs of the homeless, I thought, well, every community has shelter to help folks in need, right? I quickly discovered that in my small community, as in so many others, helping folks experiencing homelessness was not a high priority because there simply weren't enough resources to assist unhoused individuals or families. The available shelter list was 10 years old and completely out of date. I called the numbers provided, but all of them were disconnected, and the small amount of hope I had to solve my homelessness was gone in an instant. Not sure what to do or where to go, I decided to take my chances and sleep on an all-night bus. At least it would be warm and safe until I could determine my next move. Though the odds were stacked against me, I decided to walk the addresses listed because maybe only the phone numbers had changed. But after a series of unsuccessful attempts, I finally settled on a pattern of sitting in the park, resting for a while, and riding the bus all night. By this point, with no help in sight, I thought my homelessness would never end. However, fate was on my side because one night while riding public transportation, I came upon my saving grace. On this bus ride, I noticed an ad for 211, a telephone helpline for LA County residents who needed assistance with food, housing, mental health, and crisis intervention. When I got to the end of the line, I got off the bus and saw a payphone. I dashed over and called the helpline. The operator kindly provided 3 shelters to look into. The one I selected provided transportation to get there. All I needed was bus fare to get to the pickup spot, and thankfully I had it. The next afternoon, I enrolled at the nightly shelter. It provided 2 meals a day, a safe place for rest, and a case manager to help with low-income housing options. 211 literally saved my life, just as importantly, helped me rebuild my life and gave me the first hope I had had in a long time. A hope I am dedicated to sharing with other people who find themselves in need. In California, 160,000 people experience homelessness each and every night. Of these, over 65,000 are in LA County. This means well over 10% of the entire nation's population of unhoused neighbors have to resort to sleeping on sidewalks, bus benches, in cars, or community parks right here locally. Imagine if these people were your family members or friends, maybe even your own beloved grandmother. Would you not want them to receive help rebuilding their lives, a safe place to rest, a hot meal? If these people experienced trauma and could not express a need for help, should they be left to fall deeper into their trauma with no chance to heal? I believe we have a moral obligation to give every person a bridge to wellness. Now I am able to advocate that every community add resources so folks experiencing homelessness can receive the assistance and support they require. This will allow them to get back on their feet, find stability, gain independence, and thrive by receiving help to begin to address their needs. Thank you. I am Ina Fenderson, a CSH Speak Up advocate.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Clark, and I am a CSH coach. Your next advocate is a natural poet, a very insightful and natural philosopher and deep thinker. He's got a great sense of humor, and he is without a doubt one of the hardest working people I have ever met. He comes to Los Angeles from Indianapolis, and I truly believe that Indy's loss is LA's gain, because any place Gabriel is lucky to have him, and anyone he meets is lucky to know him. I was very fortunate to be paired up with him in my first Speak Up session, and I cannot wait for you to hear this tiny, tiny fraction of Gabriel's at least one book worth of stories. Ladies and gentlemen, Gabriel Sheets.
Greetings. My name is Gabriel Sheets, and I am a CSH Speak Up advocate. I am a part-time student with full-time employment in place as a street sweeper, and I'm also a part-time caretaker. I have met many social and healthcare workers in California that are very good people and have motivated me to stay focused on positivity. One woman in particular is a lady named Seglinda Von Deppner, who introduced me to Speak Up. Her job description is program coordinator of LA County for the Skid Row district, but she is simply just a sweet person. Plus, she has connected me with many resources that have helped me greatly. With the help of a housing program, I am keeping full-time I am keeping a home full-time. Now in a state of sobriety and of a conscious mind, I am definitely committed to staying focused on the straight and narrow path and assist as many people as I can. But honestly, things were not always as productive and positive for me. In my youth, you can't believe that we had a very peaceful and loving household. My mother and father were very much in love and strived to live a righteous lifestyle. It was very traditional. They were always kind to each other and to other people. My father was a military man, so we were raised to be polite with good manners. So the first 10 years of my life was very peaceful. One night we were upstairs in my parents' bedroom, and I remember her complaining about a knot that was up under her arm. And we found out that this was cancer. So for the next 2 years, we were in and out of the hospital, dealing with radiation and chemotherapy. For the next 2 days after the chemotherapy treatment, she would be going through symptoms similar to what her heroin addicts experiences when they were going through withdrawals. We watched her deteriorate slowly, and for the next 2 or 3 years' time. And on March 10th, 1990, I turned 13, and on March 30th, we had her funeral prayer. My father started smoking and drinking again. Puberty had set in. I had no parental supervision. And now my first encounter with someone relapsing from addiction was happening right here in my living room. This was Indianapolis in 1991, the crack cocaine era. So outside my living room in my neighborhood, crack cocaine had taken over the streets. And in my teenage years, I started to entertain a criminal lifestyle. I spent the next 20 years being what I call stuck on stupid. I was in and out of jail, on and off of drugs. And the system in Indianapolis is completely different than out here in California. There is no support, there's no housing, there's no assistance. They do have food stamps, but if you have a drug felony, you can't even get them. And I went to jail on a Class C felony for possession when I was 17 in '94. And this charge has stayed on my back ever since, so I've never even been able to get food stamps. And there is no such thing as GR, general relief. And until very recently, there was no free rehab programs. You had to have money. So often the only place for me to detox was in jail. So picture this, I've been out of jail for about an hour now. It's 9 p.m. You would think this is a glorious time for me. I'm no longer locked in a cage. I'm free. But sadly, the few days that I've been locked up gave someone the opportunity to go into my home and take any and everything of value. As a matter of fact, I've been there long enough this time that the rent is so overdue that my actual residency no longer even exists. So here I am, cold, hungry, broke, starting to smell with no change of clothes. What to do now, or even more importantly, how? This reality is misery, and all I can do to escape this sadness temporarily is beg upon a drink, panhandle enough to get a dime of dope, and hope this helps me deal with the fact that I'm going to be outside tonight, cold, hungry, vulnerable, uncomfortable, trying to sleep. This was a common reoccurring experience for me for 20 years of my life up to 8 years ago. Alhamdulillah. All praise due to Allah. My life is very different now. Things could be better, but there have been times when it was a hell of a lot worse. Maybe being a street sweeper is where I need to be right now, in the gutter, but this time by choice, getting it cleaned up instead of making it worse. There are other type of jobs that interest me as far as case management or even a guidance counselor, but I'm very thankful for the simple job. I am content with it. I have a roof over my head and I have stability. Stability allows a person to keep focused on normal things, going to work and going home. If you don't have that, all you have is survival mode. Stability gives you the opportunity to strive for more, to be better. Everyone needs a home, a place to go to have the simple things that you need. If you don't have that, you're just jumping from pillar to post. My name is Gabriel Sheets, and today I have stability.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Chang, and I'm a CSH Speak Up coach. It's my pleasure to introduce Shauna Riley, who I had the privilege to work with over the past year. Shauna is someone who is full of tenderness, love, and kindness. And every time we met, she never disappointed. Sometimes we'd be on a call and one of her dogs would want to join us. We'd just jump right up and leap and cuddle into her arms. Other times we might chat while she was homeschooling her son or helping a friend, or she'd be cooking something delicious to eat. Shauna shared many stories with me that demonstrated her determined perseverance through all of the challenges life would bring her. And Shauna has had her share of challenges. What I appreciate most about Shauna is her honesty and vulnerability. Her strength has no limits. And now you get to meet her. I am so proud to present Shauna Riley.
My name is Shauna, and I am proud to be a CSH Speak Up advocate. Most people don't realize there are many different paths into homelessness, from domestic violence, mental health, addiction disorder, or maybe just a rent increase that they couldn't afford. I refer to my story of homelessness as happy to homeless in just 1 hour. You see, my life was good. I had 2 amazing kids, Erin and Andrew. I lived in the family home. I'd been there for 48 years. I took care of my mother, who had several illnesses. I was her full-time caregiver. In March 2017, I was served some paperwork at my front door that would change my life forever. It was an elderly abuse restraining order. I couldn't believe what it said. I phoned the sheriff out. He came out, he took a look at the paperwork, and he said, "There's nothing I can do. You have to go. It's signed by a judge. I'll give you 1 hour." 1 hour to gather everything seemed impossible. One passion I've always had is photos, because those are your memories. So as I slowly took them down off the walls and started to pack up my vehicle, I relived each and every memory from those photos. Tears flowing down my face, an hour came to an end. I packed the car, I loaded my son, my dogs, and started to drive away. I felt every emotion at that time but happiness. As I slowly drove away and the tears were flowing down my face, my son was asking me where we're going. I had no idea. I was just as confused as he was. I had no answers to give to him. We lived in the minivan until it finally took a dump and stopped working. I remember clearly pushing my kid and my dogs in a shopping cart through the Target parking lot. It must have been quite a sight. I keep thinking, how did I get here? I needed a place for my son and I. I phoned a lot of people. I finally got a call back from a friend. They said I could stay there. I knew it was a bad decision, but it was the only option I had at that particular time. After staying there for a couple months, the house got raided. My son got taken from me that day because there was a firework in the house. They said he could have got to it and it could have blown up in his face. They put him in foster care until I could prove to be a fit mother. That was 11 and a half months. I knew we should probably get out of there. My instincts told me so. I had nowhere else to go. When I got out of jail, I was able to get another little car. A little car. A Scion XA. You know how small they are? That's where I would live with my dogs. Yep, 5 dogs. And myself. For the next 11 and a half months. Thank God the dogs were small, huh? Prior to this, I had been a registered dental assistant. Those were the days. I graduated from USC Dental School in 2000. By 2014, I made about $1,900 every 2 weeks. Now I'm living on $190 a month. Wow. I basically lived on cup of soup and top ramen. During that time, life was hard and I really didn't want to relapse. So I continued to go to my AA meetings 7 nights a week. I took up a course in college, dialectical behavioral therapy, and I visited my son twice a week as they would let me. I did everything I could to get him back. One day, I was standing in line at this church to get a $5 toy for Christmas for my son. There was a lady in front of me in line, and I heard her story, and it sounded so much like mine. When she was off the phone, I asked her how I could turn my life around to happy instead of homeless again too. She gave me a number to call. It was for the mental health facility. She told me to seek counseling. When I left there that day, I called that number right away. That's when I would get my therapist, Danielle. She helped me through the next 3 years of my life. She did so much for me. She went to all my court hearings. She even went to DCFS with me and spoke up there. She did a lot to help me. I also took parenting classes where I met the teacher there, who I'm still friends with today. I worked hard on finding a place to live so I could get Andrew back, and I did. If it wasn't for that fateful day standing in line for some silly little toy, I could still be living in that little car with my dogs. Today, I have a roof over my head, my son is with me, I've been sober for 4.5 years. I have a peace in me that's beyond anything you can imagine. I am grateful for the life I have today, and I'm grateful to be a CSH Speak Up advocate. My name is Shauna.
I am honored to introduce our next speaker. Andrew and I weren't originally paired up together, but like often happens with life, sometimes things have to fall apart a little bit before they come together the way they're supposed to be. At first, we had different partners who unfortunately both had to step away from the program. So suddenly, there we were, being introduced to one another over a month into the program, and I was nervous about playing catch up. It turns out there was no need to be nervous, because I have come to know Andrew as one of the most diligent, hardworking, disciplined people I have ever met. I'm so excited for you all to get to hear his story. And Andrew, I hope that when you look in the mirror, you see what I see in you. Kind, smart, resilient person full of creativity and integrity. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Andrew Medrano, Jr.
Picture this. I'm 10 years old, and I'm sitting outside of Burger King with my friend Adrian, and I'm nervous. But we're not there for a burger or fries. I'm waiting to meet my sister Loretta, who I haven't seen since I was 5 years old. Someone starts towards my direction. My heart starts to pound. She passes me right up. It isn't her. But then suddenly, this young lady starts walking right towards me. And I knew it was her. She was beautiful. And I was so happy that I couldn't even tell you guys. My name is Andrew Medrano Jr., and I'm a CSH Speak Up advocate. And family is the most important thing to me. My family is my heart. But family has not come easy. When I was 5 years old, my mom took me and my little brother Fernando and dropped us off in a foster home and said that she'd be back to pick us up, as she promised. But she never came back. At first, me and my little brother were together, shuffled around here and there, different foster homes. Fernando was my world, but he also got taken from me. He was adopted. My life came crumbling when I lost Fernando. I even tried to fight so that he would stay. I was so angry, so scared. I tore that house apart. But that didn't do any good, because one day I came home from school and he was gone. That's when I grew curious about the kids in my neighborhood. I joined a gang and was initiated into this gang when I was only 8 years old. And to me, they were just kids, friends that were growing up in the same neighborhood being mischievous. I entered a long-term foster home. Got a chance to learn how to box by this trainer in my neighborhood by the name of Mr. Manny Avitia. He showed me skills. He showed me discipline. I was even a natural, able to compete. Sometimes I had to use my own skills for my own protection, for I was still a part of the gang. And then I ended up going to prison. and it turned out to be a long stay. I was put on trial when I was 13 years old. At 15, I was convicted. I gave 32 years of my life to prison. I went from a young man of 15 years old to a full-grown man of 48 and came out to nothing. Didn't know if I had any family left, but definitely I was homeless. If I couldn't make it on the outside, then I would just go back to prison. But somehow I ended up on Skid Row. And believe when I say, I didn't think I was going to make it. But luckily, I had ran into someone I had known. Jerry had gotten out before me, started constructing his new life, had a place to live, people that were supporting him. Jerry asked me if I wanted to go see this place. And after seeing all the chaos on Skid Row, my answer was quick. I want to go with you. Jerry took me to the new Carver Apartments. There was a spot for me, and this is where my life began. Once I had a safe house, I started looking for my family again. But sadly, my dad had passed away right about the same time I had gotten out. And that was very hard on me. But I still got to find my sister Loretta again, my sister Deborah, my little brother that got adopted, and even my daughter, who I haven't seen since she was born. And yes, she is beautiful. I call my family many times a week. Rebuilding my family is not easy. There's a lot of history and a lot of pain, but I'll never stop trying. I'm so grateful to be a part of this program because I want to help out the people who are going through the same thing that I have gone through. I know what it took to keep me out of prison and to have me looking forward to the life that I've always wanted. It took someone to reach out to me and to help me understand what I had gone through and to take me where I've always needed to be. I know that there's a lot of people out there that want to help out those who are still experiencing with homelessness. Well, you can meet them right where they're at, but they have traveled far already, like I did. I sit outside every day with people who don't have a home yet. Some have brothers and sisters too, family they haven't found yet. I want them to have the same chance that I have had. I've been living at the new Carver Apartments for 8 years now. And for once, since I was 5 years old, I am home. My name is Andrew Marjano Jr. Thank you.
Hey you guys, and good afternoon. Congratulations, graduates or completion class of 2022. Are you ready for a ride you might not be expecting yet? Well, buckle up, my fellow colleagues. I am Dennis C. King, CSH graduate of 2017, also a member of TKE, the Tenant Knowledge Exchange. I'm on the Advisory Council, and this year I got voted into the CSH California State Policy Advisory Board. Lastly, I'm employed as a Skid Row Housing Trust peer advocate, which definitely is directly or indirectly can happen for you if you continue to just show up for CSH. Now, my advocacy came upon me in a couple of different ways. Newly hired on my job, joining CSH, I found myself thrown into a world that completely took me out of myself. In Sacramento, our state capital, I found myself lobbying for legislations, policies, funding, and shaking hands with Diane Feinstein's assistant, telling my story in 2 minutes to help the cause for new legislations. Something, as I stated before, that you guys will be doing definitely in the future. Now, the CSH program had me take a good look at myself in areas of my life I wasn't aware of yet. Now, I ask you guys, did the course have you take a good look at yourself? You graduating class of 2022, you are our future leaders. I am hoping, knowing through the CSH course you all gained a new sense of freedom. CHA's class of 2022, I've got 14 and a half years clean and sober, and I've got a poem for you. It's called Freedom. I am no longer a slave to drugs and alcohol, yet in so many ways, enslavement still threatens myself, my desires, and even my dreams. Yet without dreams, I can't exist. Without dreams, there's nothing to keep me moving forward. I must look inside myself to free myself. I must call upon God's power to face the person I feared the most, the true me, the person God created me to be. Unless I can earn who I do, I will always be running and never truly be free. I ask God daily to show me such a freedom, and I hope He does that for you guys too. That's out of the AA's Daily Reflections. One day, you guys, I was watching an episode of Yellowstone, and it stars Kevin Costner, and he's a fourth generational cattle rancher owning his land. And he has a daughter named Beth, who's like their lawyer. And she was going to get a corporate lawyer out of back east. So long story short, this lady came up to her and said to her, you know, at every historical monumental move in our society, there's a monster. And I said to myself, that's us. That's CSH. We're the good monsters. Now stay with me. The monster we're fighting is homelessness. So I just want you to put that in your minds. And I know here I am watching Yellowstone, thinking about CSH. But it made me think about us being the good monsters. And again, we are fighting homelessness. We're fighting for vets. We're fighting for our youth. We're fighting for older adults on the streets. Our markets get real, you guys. And I see it every day. So you guys, class of 2022, please get ready. Remember, we're the good monsters. And let's fight the good fight against homelessness. I'm Dennis C. King, CSH graduate of 2017.